The gym has been my anchor my whole life since I was about 14. When I was 14, I wanted to go to the gym so bad. I got my first job in the summer working at Canadian Tire. And right down the road from Canadian Tire was this local meathead, hole in the wall, brick and mortar, old school iron gym. And like, this is your typical like 1980s meathead gym. And that's where like it was known that like all the roid monkeys in town, they go to this gym. This gym was called Fitco. And it's in a little town called Duncan, British Columbia in Canada. If you just take a minute to Google Fitco, cardio and fitness, Duncan, BC, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. They're still in operation today. I remember like that place being booming when I was a kid, like a kid, like 5, 6. I remember like, because right next door to that gym used to be a fish store. So they sold like fish bait, they sold fish tanks, and my dad, being an avid fisherman, would always go there. And I'd just be like, I was never into fishing. I've never liked it. I've never cared for it. I think it's because when I was a kid, my dad would force me to go fishing with him when all I'd be wanting to do is play hockey or play sports. I had my mind somewhere else, right? So I grew up despising fishing, and I still can't stand it to this day. And I think it's just from those like long hours as a kid, being stuck on a dock. That's torture as a kid. So no wonder. But yeah, I would just be like infatuated with the meatheads in the gym. And my dad's always been like a gym player hater. That's what I call guys who don't like guys who go to the gym. You encounter gym player haters everywhere you go. Like, if you ever end up in like a treatment center or a place where you're like told what to do, like an institution, and you have an option to work out, just wait until like you have one of those like little bitch soy boys working the desk or being in charge of you. Guys that like are so passive aggressive about guys who go to the gym. They just try to make your life so difficult for trying to better yourself and get back in the gym. They say things like, oh, you're just going to replace your drug addiction with a gym addiction. I even had this old guy who's such a hater be like, yeah, I think we're gonna have some issues with you in the gym. I think you're gonna have to keep an eye on that, or I'm gonna have to get involved. It's like, dude, I'm 25 years old. You're not my dad. Just because you have a gut and a hunchback and you don't like your body and you don't like yourself, why don't you go do something about it instead of just like looking at the people that are actually living the life you want to live and complaining and making things up? It's like, I watched this Rich Piana video, and he was talking about how funny it is when he goes to a shopping mall and he knows he can spot it from a mile away. Some dude and his girlfriend, Rich, will walk by, and the dude will be like snickering in his girl's ear like, oh, he must have a small dick, or oh, he must be a roid monkey. Like, of course, because you're insecure, and just our light brings your darkness to the surface. And for me, I fell into drug addiction really hard in my 20s, and I dismantled my life many a times. I ruined all my childhood friendships, so much damage I've caused. And one thing that's really helped to repair some damage is the gym. Because I've been going to the gym, I've been able to repair a lot of my damaged relationships and undo a lot of the suffering I've caused others, because now I've built myself to a higher level and I'm actually able to help my community, not just take from it. And so many people, that's all they do, is they just take. And, we live in this world where people are so entitled that they're entitled and they're offended by everything. So, like, if you tell someone you actually don't deserve anything, you need to work for it. I worked for this government institution, and like, you'd think common sense would entail me telling people the truth, and it does. But like, if my delivery was a little bit off, I could get fired. People could write a complaint like, oh, I'm insensitive. They didn't like my tone. They didn't like my delivery. Like I always say, you could give someone a message that would save their life. But if your delivery isn't the way they want it to be, they're just going to think you're mean and block out everything you said. People are insane. And the world we live in is enough to make anyone insane. So you have to be on top of your shit. You're responsible for your life. And we get this mixed up. We get in relationships, we get in jobs, and we start like kind of expecting people to take care of us. And we kind of expect that like we deserve something. And, you know, we build ourselves to a certain level, and we still have these thoughts sometimes. So it's a never-ending journey. It truly is about falling in love with the process, because it isn't about just some destination where problems don't exist anymore. It's never about getting to a place where the problems don't happen. There's always going to be problems, but it's the level of problems, the level of the problems you're going to have. And I think that's another thing we get mixed up too, is we seem to think that like we're going to build ourselves to this big level of never having problems anymore. And that's just not the case. The problems just become different problems. Falling in love with the journey is so special, because if the destination isn't what you expect it to be, what are you doing? Like, think about that feeling for a minute. You put all your chips on the end result. You're going to be free. You're going to have no problems, and you're convinced of that. And then the time comes, you get to where you want to be, and then you find it's not what it's cracked up to be, and you kind of let yourself down. Your problems are never going to disappear. The only thing that changes is your ability to tackle them and to face them and not run from them anymore and not numb yourself from your problems and thoughts anymore. Once you start facing them, it gets easier. Find your own anchor. For me, it's the gym. I went to that meathead gym and it changed my life. And some of the people I met there are still in my life today, and we still talk. And so many good memories in that place as a teenager. So many. Me and my best friend just working out. Food for thought. Time to get a coffee. Find your anchor.